The variegated form of Philodendron Burle-marxii is one of the most popular of all variegated houseplants, and it's easy to see why. This plant has all the vigour, fast-growing, fuss-free nature of the regular green form of Burle-marx, but with the added bonus of variegation. And what great variegation it is! The variegation is a mixture of spotting, striping and splashing, and it varies not only in its shape but also its intensity of colour, from lime green to very pale creamy lemon yellow. Some leaves are half variegated, straight down the middle, and some are just a portion, whilst some leaves have none at all. Every leaf is unique, no two leaves are the same. This variation in the variegation is truly striking. Philodendron Burle-marxii is a tropical climbing plant, and it produces heavily branched climbing stems. In this variegated form, the stems are also striped in two-tone green and yellow. In nature, the plant climbs by clinging to the bark of trees, and it uses thickened roots along its stem to do this. As a result of this habit, we should ideally grow this plant upright, as it prefers to grow upwards rather than flopping about. Younger plants such as this one can be grown without support for a year or two, but this is a fast-growing plant, and for best results it will need some support to climb. You can give it a moss pole, a plant stake, or even a tree branch to climb. The stems can even climb walls if they get the chance by coming into contact with a nearby wall. Philodendron Burle-marxii variegata is forgiving of neglect and is an adaptable plant. It's fast-growing, fuss-free, doesn't suffer from too many pests or problems, and it grows well under average indoor growing conditions as a houseplant. It is extremely attractive and easy to propagate, so it shouldn't cost a fortune to buy one. I think it's probably a good contender for the best variegated houseplant, and I would recommend it to all, both beginner and experienced gardeners. Propagation of Philodendron Burle-marxii is by cuttings and is very straightforward. Where possible, aim to propagate in early summer when the plants are growing actively. You should look for an older growth that has a firm stem, not a young soft stem, and ideally you want at least 2 fully formed leaves and a little root. Have a look along the stem in the area where you want to cut and aim to make that cut just below some good aerial roots. Make the cut with a sharp knife or pruners. Now we have an excellent cutting. This cutting has several mature leaves, some softer, immature leaves developing, and also some good roots. There is no need to put this cutting into water, but you could if you wanted to, in order to observe the root growth, or if the cutting has only a very small amount of root. If you do place into water, use a clear container so you can watch the root development. Change the water every week to keep it fresh. I will pot this cutting in an open mix that is suitable for most epiphyte houseplants. The epiphyte houseplants cling to trees and don't grow in heavy soils, so they need a chunky, airy potting mix and nothing as dense as soil. A good mix can be made from 2 parts general-purpose compost, such as a peat or cocoa peat based mix, with 2 parts coconut chunks or orchid bark, and 1 part, or at least a good handful, of perlite. Our cutting has now been potted up and is already looking great. Don't plant it too deeply. I have covered the base of the stem and the lower aerial roots, but the upper aerial roots are still exposed and they will grow down into the compost. If your cutting falls over or flops about, then use a small garden stick or split bamboo to support it and tie loosely with string. The cutting can now be watered well and placed in a suitable position in bright light to grow on. Keep it evenly moist at all times, but not wet. It should develop plenty of root and will fully stabilize in the next 6 to 8 weeks.